be going live here in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, so you guys know, I have a video that's about a minute and a half long. I stripped from a Matt and Chris presentation out of Olympia. I'm going to play that in the beginning. And so it'll be silent for a second. You won't be able to see it or hear it. And if you watch it on your own phone, it'll be delayed a little bit. But then you'll be able to see that I'm coming back from that, and I'll introduce you guys and bring you in. So welcome in, everybody. I am live. You can't hear our guest yet, but I can, and I'm hanging out right now with Andy, Teresa, Shelby Diamond Star, which is Mary Beth Kaczynski, Dave Huzamaki, and I haven't seen, Viet Win. Win is here, so sweet. Welcome in, everybody. So I'm stoked. I know it's early morning, and it's going to be tough to get the main audience, but Justin Miller, he says, I can't wait to watch/listen on company time, so he is ready. Looks like my audio is a little low. Those of you who are hanging out with me, let me know if you feel like this is too low or if the audio is low with our guests later on. Just continually hit me up and say, hey, too slow, too quiet, and we'll fix it on the fly. So now I should be yelling at you right now. That might be a little too much gain. Let's edit that gain a little bit back, 24. All right, cool. We're about to go live in 1 minute and 18 seconds. So I think the audio is solid. Mary Beth, let me know. Rhonda Pierce and Viet. Hello, Aaron Wynn says. And Royce is here. Welcome in, Royce Bear. All right. Hey, Royce, I'm still calling that Milky Way Butte out there by Hanksville, the Royce Bear Milky Way Butte, and I love calling it that. So it's going to be that on Google Maps someday. I think I'll wait until you are no longer bothered by the honor, but I'm excited to call it that. And Andy Washington says, sounded fine, now loud. Yeah, I think it's maybe way too loud. Even though I have turned that gain up to the same match that I have done in the past, I think I'm yelling at everyone still. Let's go ahead and go to 20 on the gain. How about that? Checking my levels. I'm only peaking in the yellow right now, so checking out the audio, I'm feeling pretty good. Paolo Bergamomo from Italia, but he's hanging out in LA right now. Welcome in, man. I'm stoked to have you guys all here. And Mary Beth says, sounds nice. And hey, Teresa, she says. Cool. We're going live in 20 seconds. And we're going to bring in our guests here momentarily. So everyone, get ready. Get your questions ready. Remember the all caps. We'll be talking to the chat room here momentarily. And, oh, you know what? Oh, it's true. I want to add that, but we'll have to fix that. I'll have to add some chat as we're talking live stream. Why not? So let's get ready. If you're not ready right now, or if you're at work right now, enjoy this hour of ignoring your work and hanging out with the National Parks at Night guys, because we're starting here live in 1 moment. Oh, I just realized that I do not have that video isolated. So let me go ahead and put this video file in here. So those of you who are hanging out with me live, this is a live stream where we're hanging out with the National Parks at Night guys. I'm going to bring them in here in a moment once we've gone formally live. And we're just getting ready for the Nightscaper event. If you guys are thinking about learning about Milky Way photography, anything astrophotography, you want to be here in Kanab, Utah in May. And so we're going to be back out for the 2023 Nightscaper event. We're going to be talking a lot about that. So let me go ahead and find, I don't want that source. I want the source to be a media file. Cool. We're going to show something that is going to help you guys know this team. I just barely put it together right here. This intro, you're going to see Matt and Chris talk about Olympia National Park, and let's get rolling.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris.
We're from National Parks at Night. We teach night photography to people who are in national parks.
Just like this one, Olympic National Park in Washington State.
And boy, is it beautiful here.
Yeah.
So we've been here for about 2 weeks, and we're loving it. Chris is an expert in Olympic National Park, and he's been here a bunch of times. Chris, why don't you tell us about the wildly diverse ecology?
It's like having 3 national parks in one. You got rainforest, mountains, and coastline, just like what we're seeing behind us. One of the things we've had a lot of fun doing in Olympic National Park is taking advantage of the different night photography opportunities. We've got the stars and the Milky Way, that's normal, but we had northern lights, we've had bioluminescent plankton, we've had just amazing moon sets over the Pacific. It's been beautiful. I've always loved that feeling of being in the parks, being in a natural space. It's just stunning to look at. And now I'm getting to really enjoy sharing that with so many other people.
So why National Parks at Night? Number 1, they're beautiful. Number 2, they're precious. And number 3, they look amazing at night. So we bring people out so they can learn how to make amazing photographs. You know, that reminds me of why we started National Parks at Night. There's an amazing feeling that you get when you see your first Milky Way shot, or you see the northern lights, or you see the starlight bouncing off of a glassy smooth surface with mountains in the distance. All of these things can be captured.
One of the things that's great about doing night photography in a workshop setting is that we're working as a group and we can collaborate. We got each other's backs in the dark for all the bears that we never see because it's dark. But we love being able to work together, light paint together, tackle complex photography situations together.
But most of all, we just want you to understand that it's possible. We give you all the tools it takes to do night photography. Check us out, nationalparksatnight.com. We'd love to see you at one of the workshops. Thanks a lot.
Welcome in, everybody. I believe our video has ended as I couldn't listen to it, so if you were done listening to it, it doesn't matter because I just ended it immediately. Welcome in. I hope I'm not yelling at everyone right now. We have our guests, the National Park at Night guys. We only have 3 of the 5 guys behind National Parks at Night with us today. We have Chris Nicholson, Matt Hill, and Gabe Biederman, and we are going to be bringing them in a moment. You guys can wave in 1 second because I just barely showed only my face for that moment when you were waving. So everybody who's hanging out in the chat, you will see your chat in a moment here in the window below. As you go through this discussion, learning about the National Parks at Night guys, I want you guys to hit me with all caps questions so that I know to come back to them if we can't interject with them immediately. So if you have any questions for these guys, specifically about Nightscaper Conference, specifically about their photography, do it in the chat in all caps. All right, let's get going. Let's hang out with these guys.
Well, a long, long time ago, in a space, in a galaxy far away. Um, no, Matt and I kind of were the beginning catalyst for this. Matt and I share a deep love of night photography from the early days, the film days for us. And we became good friends in the late 2000s, and we were doing we both live in New York, and we were doing workshops, night photography workshops. First, we were exploring New York at night once we found a kind of that common interest, and then we wanted to take it the next level, and we started offering workshops at 2 quite unique places in New York, both Bannerman Castle, an hour and a half north of Manhattan, just this little castle in the middle of the Hudson River that gets some actually decent night skies for New York and being that close to New York City. And then we'd also go to Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, and that is just we like photographing in cemeteries and the light painting and all the kind of creativity that comes there. So we started offering those, but then we started traveling. We go to Vegas a lot for when we wore our other hats, and we started exploring other national parks, national park units. And I remember we were out at Arches together, and we were both like, I think it was on the drive home or at that night, we're both like, we gotta take this to the next level. It was our mission to go to every national park at night. And we said, yeah, we want to do this, but we also want to share this. And so then in 2015, we kind of came up with this, 2014, 2015. And then we were like, well, listen, we both have day jobs. We have this passion, but who else can we bring? And this was before the Avengers really were big too, so we were like kind of
Yeah.
trying to form a super team, right? I had known about Lance Keimig for a long time, and to me, he's sort of one of the fathers of night photography. He's been doing it since the early '90s, and shooting on film, and is really also passionate about the history of night photography, and has written 2 wonderful books, both which incorporate the history of night photography, both of which incorporate also the history of light painting throughout, like since the beginning of photography. So like we got to work with him, and he's the East Coast, and so we reached out to him. We started working with him, and then I also I wear another hat at B&H Photo, and I had been working with Tim Cooper at our Rocky Mountain School of Photography, and to me, he was one of the best educators I had ever worked with. Just so kind, patient, and passionate about his work. And we started offering, and we actually were teaching a Dusk to Dawn workshop that would go from Vegas to Zion. Because really, national parks at night, yes, we love getting out to the parks and being under the dark skies, but we also like showcasing the variety of things that you can explore at night. And that workshop is one of my all-time favorites, just because we would just go into the city, light paint the neon signs, interpret Las Vegas and the chaos of that. But then we get to the quietude of the stars of Zion, and it was just like, oh. And so I was doing those workshops with him starting like 2008, 9, so around the same time. And so we're like, we got to work with Tim, and we were almost there, but we felt like we were missing something. And my goodness, we were missing actually a big chunk. And we were introduced to Chris Nicholson. I believe Chris was then the 2015 optic at B&H. It must have been. Yep. And Chris Nicholson was teaching and selling his book on how to photograph national parks. And Matt and I just looked at each other and we're like, yes, we need to talk to him, because we love the parks, but this guy's written a book on the parks and how to photograph the parks and everything. And he has, amazing, he comes from the editing background and the writing background, as well as photography background, and has really kind of helped strengthen and unify us and our content and delivery, and just been amazing, and as an amazing photographer as well. So all together, we felt like we were complete at that time. And in 2015, we started announcing our personal workshop series for 2016, 17, and we started at 5. Next year went to 10. Next year went to 15, and now we're at 20 plus workshops a year, plus the Nightscaper Conference. And it has been an amazing ride. And I have to say, I love working with these guys, and I love, love, love sharing our night visions with the universe.
Absolutely. I mean, we're just talking with Andy here in the chat, and then he's like, I'm watching from London, and I have got to come out and join you guys sometime. Yeah. So when I'm thinking about the National Parks at Night team, just real quick, what is the list of national parks that you all have had workshops and adventures in? Have you hit every single one? Have you only hit the same 10? Which national parks do you guys always take people to?
I think, Chris,
well,
you want to break
over half of them.
It's funny. It's funny as you asked that I'm drinking out of my Sequoia mug, where we have done a workshop. No, this is we do return to some for kind of special reasons, but the mission from the beginning has been to go to as many parks as it makes sense to run a workshop in. There's a few that aren't conducive to it, but the U.S. has plenty of national parks, over 60 national parks, and most of them are fantastic for night photography. And we want to get to as many as possible. So as Matt said, we've done more than half already. And every year we're looking to see what new parks are we going to do next year. And so that's exciting for us. It keeps us on our toes. We don't get bored or complacent with going to the same places all the time.
Right. Yeah.
I think the, that excitement has also gone to our attendees, because they've told us every year when we announce our itinerary, people they tell us they get breakfast ready and they're sitting at the computer with their coffee ready to see where we're going next year. And that's turned out to be, it's a nice marketing advantage, but just the excitement in the community about,
right,
geez, where are we going to go next year, right? So that's really been a very fun component of it, to always keep it fresh, not just for us, but for everybody who comes along with us too.
Absolutely. I mean, Jay Jeffries is making us all jealous in the chat, saying he's joining us from the sunny Bahamas. I mean, right now it's sunny outside here in Provo, Utah, but it's not cold. It's not warm. Justin is joining you with his own Acadia National Park mug and enjoying that right now. Teresa recommends check out the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument. That's something to consider. So when I'm thinking about the national parks, of all the places you have gone so far for your workshops, Matt, what's your favorite one that you've ever gone to that you could go to every year?
It's always the next one. Like, what is my next workshop? That's my favorite one that I want to go to. But I guess the one that I'm returning to next year that I'm most excited about would be Great Sand Dunes in Colorado.
Nice. I'm probably going to be out there soon, actually. I'm thinking about doing a winter Milky Way panorama off the dunes there.
Yes.
And so
Oh
it'd be
my God.
fantastic.
Can I join you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a text. So I'm thinking about all these locations that I keep going for my workshops. It's nice to go back and repeat a location because then you really know it. But whenever I do a brand new location, it is reinvigorating and exciting. So what's the new location here in 2023 for you guys? Where are you guys going that's completely new to you in 2023? Anywhere?
Easter Island.
Easter Island. You're going Easter Island.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, that's a national park as well.
Yep.
For the United
Rapa
States
Nui.
or for Rapa Nui.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
then
I know.
how do you plan and prepare for a workshop when you go to a location like that? You're just trailblazing the path as you go. He laughs.
Too bad Lance isn't here because Lance was the trailblazer on that one.
Well, you know,
Uh,
for something like that, you've got to work with a guide, right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a lot of when you go someplace. The other one that I would mention would be the Virgin Islands, where we're going next December. So we're going to be on St. John's for over a week, and what it means is to show up and look for the opportunity to have the best adventure you can, and not just daytime, but of course nighttime too. So you need to look to understanding what it's going to take to make sure that everybody has so much fun that they talk about it with everybody. That's really what it takes.
Right.
So what does that mean? You got to figure that out when you get there.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the trick. Is how hard are you going to work to figure out what it's going to take to make it fun for everyone.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that this is totally off the cuff, and none of you will be prepared for this whatsoever. So each one of you, each one of you have to answer one part of this. I have three parts. I need you to answer. Well, it's not three parts. They're all the same, but there's different answers for each one. What three things would you tell someone who's new to Milky Way photography and new to go to Nightscaper or new to going to a national park? What would you tell them? One tip from Gabe, one tip from Matt, and one tip from Chris. Basically, what would you tell them to do to get ready? Okay, this is how you make sure that when you get there, you take full advantage of the night sky once you're there. It could be anything, and I'm going to give Chris the easy one where he gets to go first, and anything he says is correct, and then Matt and Gabe have to be creative. So,
All right.
Chris, hit us up with the first tip.
All right. So one tip to get ready to go. So
Yeah,
this
like
is
you're
before
preparing.
you're on site.
Yeah.
All right. I'm really big about scouting ahead of time. You know, it can be a lot of fun to show up to a place you've never been and just, you know, everything is serendipitous and all that. But I find it's not really the best way to get your best photography done. You know, give
Right.
yourself a leg up by pulling together some information before you go. You know, serendipity is great. And like, if you see, you know, the fog forming in front of a great sunrise and that wasn't your plan, then by all means chase it. But when those magic things don't happen, if you have a plan to fall back on, then you're still going to be able to do some good work, right?
Well,
so, you know, do some research about your location ahead of time. Like, I love going to Google News, and you can create a news alert, right? So you can go in and you can tell Google News every time, like say I'm going to Acadia, right? And I could do a search for Acadia National Park photography, maybe, right? And tell Google News every time that shows up, email me, right? And then for weeks ahead of time, I'm getting emails from Google that Acadia showed up in the news, like this magazine covered it, this newspaper is talking about new trails or something, right? And I'm getting, so it's like automatic. I just one setting and automatically I'm getting all the news about the place I'm going in the weeks before I go there.
That's a really good point. I was taking a workshop out to an area off of the Oregon coast, and I didn't have any news alerts. And it turned out just a couple weeks before we got there, someone died off the cliff nearby, and they closed off the path. The trail was blocked off. You could no longer go down to Natural Bridge from that area. And I'm walking with my group, and there's this big sign that says, "Danger, danger, you're going to die if you walk past the sign." And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't walk this group of people past the sign that says we're all going to die. And that sign had never been there before. So I wish I had done that tip. Okay, that's brilliant, Chris. Now, Matt and Gabe, who wants to take on the next brilliant tip for people who are trying to plan out their adventure?
I'm pretty confident. Gabe, feel free to go next.
Okay, Gabe, hit yours because Matt has a good one.
All right. Right. Well, so if Chris is saying scouting, and I'm going to say that, you know, photo pills is sort of part of that scouting, right? I think that's an obvious tip. So I'm not going to go there, but again,
Cool.
everyone should be
Planning
using
photo
photo pills to scout. But you know, one thing Chris hit upon, and I think is so important, and it's something that we teach as well, and that is, um, is that flexibility. That hey, you could go, you could do all the planning you want, you get to right where the Milky Way is going to rise, and you've got all that sorted up, but it is a clouded in night, or it's got some clouds, that are really interfering with your night. What do you do? And I know so many people who just don't, just that's it. They see clouds. I'm not going out. So you could go to a wonderful place like Capitol Reef, but then not just go out. What you say? You tell me you're not going to go out for 3 days? That things, there's plenty of beauty, again, beyond that Milky Way. Again, I think that's all what we strive. We want to get the core. We want to get that story of that nightscape in front of, these wonderful natural landscapes. But I want to shoot every night, right? So I'm going to reach into that bag, not just for my camera, but for all the skills that we've kind of acquired over the years, and say, okay, if it's cloudy, then we'll look for detail shots, or maybe we'll do some light painting if it's allowed, and maybe do some night portraits, or again, kind of look for things that maybe don't take up, so much of that sky, or again, emphasize the movement of the clouds. There's plenty of beautiful movement. So having that flexibility, that when we go out into the field, and we're looking for one thing. So many times we look for one thing.
Right. Yeah.
We plan that whole night. We're not going to do this. And so many times I've gone home with so many other shots that in fact ended up being better. And that exploration still in the field is quite enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned an app already, PhotoPills. I'm going to put you on the spot, Gabe. What's your favorite on-site location app? Have you used something regularly that you could recommend?
So I use PhotoPills. That's sort of my lean-to, and that when you go in the field, I love going into their night AR, right? That night AR just puts it all together, and that is so key to, okay, I'm going to go to this point. This is what I've seen. Maybe I've used PhotoPills or another app, to kind of look at locations. Using the national park apps too, the national park app system. I use that as a great scouting tool. The NPS app. That's a great way for me to kind of find out a lot more easy than the website. Yeah. I find their app works a lot more. I don't know, and you can star things and save things, so you can have that, and then you can download it so you have it without reception, because so many parks don't have it. But I would say for me, night AR in the field just puts it all together.
Absolutely.
Gabe, there's one you're not thinking of that you and I were introduced to at the same time. Peak Finder.
Oh, yeah, I love Peak
Finder.
Peak Finder is a great one.
Oh yeah,
especially when you're in a place like Norway and can't pronounce any of the mountains.
Peak Finder.
It's that one.
Yeah. Peak Finder, right? Because that overlays. That has another AR. Often you want to do during the day, because at night you don't see the AR as well, obviously. But you kind of align it with the mountains, and that way, and that's Chris, totally 100%, because again, we want to tell the stories of these places and the names of these landscapes, the names of these mountains, and is so important. And again, right,
awesome.
I know in Lofoten in Norway, we were just like, I can't even pronounce that.
I just went down $5 adding that app to my phone.
Yeah,
so let's do
great
it.
One.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
We were in the Lofoten Islands, and like Gabe said, like we don't know the name of anything, and we can't pronounce the names. And it was one of the locals who told us about Peak Finder. It's such a cool app.
Since we're on the topic, I got to bring up my favorite, because if you guys have already downloaded Sky Guide because it has a great looking Milky Way sky, it's fantastic. But just like with PhotoPills, where you put an AR up, you're basically overlapping what's in front of you with the AR, and you're trying to picture where the Milky Way is. There's a cool feature if you pay for the pro version of Sky Guide that will actually mask out a full color. So if you have it at dusk, where now the sun has set and you have a big old blue sky that's clear, all pretty much one tone, you can then mask out the sky. And so I was in Mono Lake, and I'm sitting there and I'm putting up the Milky Way, and instead of having the Milky Way picture overlap my rock in front of me, it specifically masked in the Milky Way behind the rocks.
That's
so
cool.
I could see what part of the Milky Way was obstructed by the rocks live right there, standing there, and I can move the clock forward and go, oh man, the time time that the Milky Way gets around that crazy craggly rock is right here at 2:30. That's where I want to be on a stand right here at 2:30, and I love that app. Okay, Matt, you were so confident. Now you got to nail it with the finale. What's the tip that everyone needs when they're preparing for their next adventure at a national park?
Practice.
Practice.
And I have a great story to back this up with.
Okay,
these guys are laughing because I just shot the Geminids. I had the first clear sky in Catskill that I've ever had all the years that I've lived here during the Geminids. So I shot it. I went down to Ashokan Reservoir, had a perfect spot picked out, and it was cold. But I spent the night before practicing for. I did exactly the same things I would do the following day. I set up 3 cameras, 3 different ways to shoot the meteor shower, and I learned a lot of things. And I wrote this list of probably 4. I said, hey guys, just for posterity, here's the 14 things I did wrong on my practice night. And I brought that list with me that when I was preparing for the next day, and I made no mistakes the second night. Oh, I made one mistake. I forgot a damn cable for the Benro Polaris.
Of course, yeah.
I forgot the one cable that you need, the only one that works with it. But I was able to do a manual calibration. Thank goodness. So that practicing, the biggest frustration that people have at night when they go out shooting is, I don't know how to do this in the dark. I don't know where this button is. I don't know where my flashlight is. I don't know where my battery is. Where's that quick release plate, etc. The list can get very long depending on what you're familiar with and what you're unfamiliar with. So going out and practicing before it's the important night helps you solve a lot of those things. It gets you the motor memory of knowing where the buttons are, but it also gets you in the habit of thinking in the dark. And I can't stress enough, once you've planned and once you've set what Gabe so eloquently said, the emotional way of saying I'm resilient. If this isn't what I wanted, what else can I make an opportunity with? Practicing will also help you develop that resilience because you know you're more prepared. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I once famously recorded a perfect meteor shower at the Perseids out in Bryce Canyon. It was terrific. I fell asleep under the meteor showers constantly coming, high volume peak, and I woke up that morning to check out my image, and I was listening to my camera doing the time lapse all night. I was so stoked. Turns out my time lapse was not running like I thought. It only practice ran that well, and it captured for 3 hours an entire white image. So I had a 3.5 hour shutter of just one image, all white. It was fantastic. So practice does make perfect, and I recommend everybody pay attention to your gear. Go into the bathroom. Royce Bear always recommends this. Go into your bathroom, close the door behind you, and figure out how to fiddle with the knobs in the dark, because when you get out there to the workshop, you're really going to hate it when you have the Milky Way moving on you and you're still trying to figure out how to change that one setting that's nagging at you. And Royce is actually also commenting. He's back here with us. Welcome in, Royce. He says, practicing before is so important, muscle memory. And he says, hey, planning is important, but so is exploration in the field. Being open to being surprised and amazed. And I'm thinking about that video I shared at the beginning of this. You guys couldn't hear it, but it was you talking about Olympia, and Matt and Chris were getting all excited about how the fact that bioluminescence happened while you were there. You can't plan for that. So what did you learn capturing that? Is there any tips for if we ever get lucky to see bioluminescence, how do you take advantage of it? How do you really capture it? Is there anything you have to do differently?
Chris, you want to take this one?
Chris, you're actually muted currently. You're unfortunately muted for a sec.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
It's you're going to see it. You're going to see it. Like so many things at night, you'll see it in the photo before you see it with your naked eye, unless it's crazy bright. I've seen some bioluminescence that you can't miss. But Matt and I were shooting. It's funny, we were shooting that, and it might have been the night before we made that video, in fact. And we didn't see it. It was kind of foggy. It was very foggy.
Just kind of.
I think we almost didn't even shoot. And it was kind of one of those nights that was like, well, let's just open the shutter and see if anything interesting happens, right? And so we're just like, have some simple compositions of driftwood set up and
drift logs.
And both of us drift logs, the huge giant ones, right? If you don't know Olympic National Park, the number one cause of injury and death in the park is logs coming in. There's like serious logs on the shore. So we're set up, and both of us about the same time. We're kind of doing some test photos, and we're like, is the water blue? in our night photos.
So strange. Yeah.
Yeah, like
yeah.
we thought it was our
What is
imagination.
Yeah.
And in fact, because I love Olympic, I've been there a ton of times, and I love shooting there. And I didn't know that there was bioluminescence there. And the next day, we actually asked somebody about it. One of the locals who was helping us out, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of our best kept secret here." So sorry, I'm blowing it now.
Yeah.
But they do.
Everyone
have it,
here
and,
has a pact. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, and we did a workshop a couple of years later. Lance and I did a backpacking workshop at Olympic out to Shai Beach, and Aaron, I'm sure this has happened to you. You could do one of these workshops when you've got to like really work to get to a location, hiking or whatever, and you're there for 2 nights and it's just cloudy.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah.
Right. Not only cloudy, new moon, so it's like just a completely dead sky. But we had the bioluminescence and it saved us. That's what people shot for 2 nights. It's so cool. It's such a different and interesting element. People who don't know about bioluminescence probably think you faked it, you light painted it or did it in post or something, but it really adds an interesting element to it. And that workshop that Matt and I were doing, my favorite story from that one is we're out shooting and we get a text from one of our alums who lived in Seattle who said, "Hey, you guys might want to look north tonight because I saw the KP index is kind of high." And we look north and we don't see anything, but we did a test shot and sure enough, the aurora's there. And so we've got aurora in front of us, and we've got the Milky Way off to the side.
Wow.
And the tide's going out. And so there's like this sheen on the sand,
and
all this was reflecting.
Right. Yeah.
And the bioluminescence, all in the same shot.
Freaking spoiled, you jerks.
Wait, it was,
You forgot to mention, it was his birthday, too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mother Nature really
yeah.
celebrates Chris Nicholson's birthday then. Holy crap.
Well,
That
I
year,
think
yeah.
another piece of advice is to always shoot always shoot on your birthday. Chris got that, which was reigning supreme. But this last year, I shot on my birthday was when we're up in Lofoten and we got the auroras. And then Tim was on a workshop at Grand Canyon with his birthday this year. I don't know if anything super special happened, but it's pretty super special to be on the North Rim. So shoot on your birthday.
And I got lightning at the Devil's Tower on my birthday with Chris.
See,
Yeah, extraordinary. Yeah.
Awesome photographer Jack Fusco just joined us and said, "Hey, that's a pretty solid birthday present." No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
My birthday present is usually like a nice clear sky that as soon as the Milky Way gets into position and everyone gets all excited, our settings are good, our cameras are ready, then that one strip of cloud hovers right over the core and just slaps me in the face. I'm like, "Come on, over there, it's totally clear. Why?" Oh, man. So there was a guy who's actually retracted his message because of a typo, but he was saying that the national parks at night, guys, are fantastic at taking advantage of the night opportunities. You guys definitely are. In that video, it showed it off. And I think, like me, you guys get giddy about these nerdy things, and we just love it. And so I'm thinking about you guys being, stewards of the Nightscaper Conference is so perfect. I'm so stoked to have you guys do it. Before we go into our next stories, I want to mention real quick, everybody, if you haven't yet, go to the nightscaper.com website and make sure you get your early bird ticket before 2022 is over. This ticket price right now is the most affordable that it's going to be. We're out in Kanab May 18th through 21st, and we're one-night workshops with a bunch of different photographers who are out there presenting at it. Speakers, there's all sorts of speakers, but I'm just going to feature a few of them real quick by hovering over their face. We've got Jess Santos, Joshua Snow, Royce Bear, who will only be virtual. Royce, what? I guess he's coming in from Menorca, that's right. Mike Shaw, Betty Maya Foote with they're part of the organization, the International Dark Sky Organization, and she's awesome. And we got Mary Beth Kaczynski. If you don't go for anyone else, go for Mary Beth Kaczynski. There's some guy named Aaron King. He's kind of interesting. And then the rest of everybody else who's teaching. And we have tons of speakers, tons of opportunity. And if nothing else, you're going to have an opportunity to go out to a beautiful location in southern Utah and get some amazing skies, amazing dark locations, stuff that you wouldn't do alone. You would be afraid to do alone. You're not quite certain or sure about how to stay safe or how to get there. Come with everybody here. There's a bunch of hundreds of us that are all going to be going out everywhere. It's so much fun. Even if you think you know night photography, Come here for the adventure and the socializing with fellow Milky Way nerds, and you will have a blast and you won't regret it. So I hope that you're looking right now at nightscaper.com and getting registered and joining us, because you got to get out there, you got to learn, and this should be your yearly mecca as a night photographer, because this is going to be fantastic. Okay. Everybody else, Matt, Gabe, Chris, I've been asking you questions out on the side, and I do personally have this. Let me see if I can pull it up in front of everyone's face. Haha, this image is blocking every one of their face, and now I will just block Chris's face. Why not? Chris, you've been benched for this image. Oh, it moved on me. The gods do not want me to. Hey, there's my picture on my other download. It was some podcasts that I love. So right here, this is an image from Joshua Tree. Gabe, this is your favorite image of all time. Can you take us through the adventure that created this? In fact, I'll block Matt as well. I'm just going to have it right above Gabe's head. So then this is an image. You don't have to tell us exactly where in Joshua Tree, but it's a fantastic shot. Take us through the capture of this and why it's your favorite image of all time.
This was just an amazing experience from start to finish. And I'm so thrilled with the final product. This happened at the end of our workshop there, I believe, in 2019. Joshua Tree is, for me, one of my favorite parks, and for so many people, it's really a truly amazing park. It's quite easy to get to, accessible, and the irony of that park, though, is people go there for the trees, fall in love with the rock formations. People go there for the rock formations, fall in love with the trees. It's like you go, again, that whole thing, you go there for one thing, but you always find something else. So I remember this was taken at the end of the workshop. We stayed sort of that last night. We kind of end our workshops with the slideshow presentation and celebration. And then we go on our way, but we had decided to stay an extra night, and we wanted to go out on our own, and we chose, within Joshua Tree and any park, we got off the path. We got off the beaten path and did some exploring. And, when you look at this rock, so we went there and did all the sort of things that we preach as well. So we went out there and scouted it during the sort of the late afternoon, so during daylight. And I found this arch. Now I wandered all throughout, just sort of, I was like, I want to go past this area, and I found this arch. Now you guys might not realize this, but I'm gonna kind of break down the fourth wall. This arch is like 3 feet tall.
Whoa, that looked like it was massive. Like this is hovering over your head, 15 high.
So don't go looking for this arch, or if you do, go on your hands and knees. Right? It's a really small arch, and and that's part of scouting. When you go scouting, I always tell people, everyone sets up their tripod. What do? They kind of extend all the legs, right? And it's like, no, don't even set up your tripod. Go up, down, all around. And I found this little hole in this arch. And then I took out, photo pills, and I said, oh no, because I knew we were kind of facing, a little bit to the south, but was the core gonna come through that hole? Could I angle it? And yes, I could. And I'm like, this is it. This is my spot. And I'm like I don't know if I'm maybe 3 feet maximum from this arch, right? Low to the ground. And so I set up this shot and did some light painting of it prior to the Milky Way getting in position. And then, and then when the Milky Way got in position, it just, I had to refocus, because this is pretty extreme distances. I'm shooting this, I believe, with this is with the 1424. It's either that or the IRIX 15, but most likely the Nikon 1424. That's sort of my go-to night lens. And I have to say, this was very tricky to put together in post, just because of the extreme proximity of the stacking of to blend, to focus blend. This one was pretty extreme on that, and so I had to definitely I actually had to call in our Tim Cooper on this one, and he kind of helped me with this one, because this was pretty extreme on sort of blending it together. But he helped me blend it together, get it all in there, and I'm just so happy. This is, again, I've taken plenty of wonderful images every year. We do a post that celebrates our favorite images of the year, and this one still resonates to me as one of my favorites. It's just because it tells that story that everyone can find their own arch, right? Everyone can
Yeah.
find their own Milky Way. I know we go to these parks and we go to Delicate Arch, we go to, the Joshua Tree, the arch at Joshua Tree, which everyone goes to. You'll sort of like Grand Central Station there. But there's just plenty to explore. So just get off that beaten path and find your own, special little arch or special little foreground that then you can tell that story with the night sky.
Absolutely. I am getting some posts talking about the Nightscaper Conference that we have some good Q&A that's going to be coming in. But Gabe, I remember my first experience with you when you walked up from the bushes behind me at Toadstool Hoodoo with Matt. It was like, there's someone coming, everybody. Get ready. Everyone has their hands on their knives and their guns, and it turned out it was just Matt and Gabe. But they came out of nowhere. They didn't come from the trail in front of us where we had come from. They came from behind us. Like, what's going on? Who are these guys? Are they going to ruin our shot? It turned out they were friendlies, and so that was good news. So that's a fantastic image. I love going through these kind of moments and everyone talking about how they find something, because it's almost... I mean, if everyone wants to be jealous, go to Mary Beth's Instagram and see all of her compositions, because it's so hard to see your composition when you're on location. How long did it take for you, Gabe, to decide this is the position, this is the angle I wanted? Because sometimes it's just kind of off the cuff guessing.
This definitely took some time. I mean, I saw it, and then I'm pretty much laying down composing this image.
Oh, awesome!
Which I'm not a small guy, so for me to lay down, that's a bit of a commitment.
It's much easier for me.
And so, like, I'm getting down there. I'm like, wow, this is and I was getting excited because, again, I love sort of a new take, a different take, and I love kind of pushing our visions and our gear to sort of that next level. And so I saw it, but it definitely took me, it's so funny. We always have X amount of test shots before we get to that final shot. And this one definitely, there was probably about at least 15 or 20 test shots to get to that right first composition, which was focused on the small arch there. And then I had to do light painting. So there was another like 5 or so test shots for that.
Oh, I have to interrupt too, because Royce Bear was like, I love the lighting on this. He loved your low-level lighting progress. The work you did here is fantastic.
And that was with a flashlight, to be honest. That was a flashlight. So that was about, that was before we had these, we love these LED low-level lights. So I had to get far away and also low and just, really kind of scrape that light painting to get that nice texture in there.
Yeah.
So that took another, 5 to 6 shots to get it, but and then of course you're stacking for the high ISO Starry Landscape Stacker for
Absolutely.
the night sky, so I mean, this, like I said, this was definitely, all in all, this image was probably in the field being worked on for a couple hours. And to be honest, I might have spent more time post.
That's how it goes. Mary Beth says she loves this image too, and love that it's so small. I've been with Mary Beth doing photography, and she spends 90% of her time crouched over a 12-inch tall tripod. So she would really appreciate this rock. So before we go into Chris Nicholson's favorite picture of all time, we're getting some Nightscaper-specific questions that I want to tackle while we still have Matt, because Matt has an obligation here in 20 minutes that he'll be presenting for another group, and we don't want to lose Matt. So let's talk some of the logistics and questions about it. First off, everyone recommends that you fly into Las Vegas to go straight into Kanab. It's the closest pathway to it. It's a terrific pathway through Zion to get to Kanab. You will appreciate flying into Las Vegas. Plus, the prices are usually inexpensive to fly into Vegas because they think you're going there to gamble, and so they have some prices that turn out to be pretty solid. But then here comes the question from our audience, and Andy says, hey, if I flew in, what are the accommodation options like? Are there vehicle share opportunities? Rental's not cheap anymore. It sure isn't. So anyone of you want to take on that question?
I'll take that on.
Yeah, Matt.
Accommodations, there's plenty of hotels in Kanab. There's tons of them. In fact, on the website, we have a list of recommendations. There's no specific host hotel, but it's pretty easy to find rooms and rooms at a price that you like. Plus, there's a ton of Airbnbs. Regarding ride shares, it's not something that we have set up, but within the Nightscaper Conference Facebook group, people are welcome to reach out to each other and establish that amongst each other. So I'd say the community should work with each other to help, as they normally do in the night photography community, to say, hey, I have a need, and somebody else saying, hey, let's work together. That happens all the time on our workshops. So
Fantastic.
I've also had a lot of success. There's a lot of places to fly into Vegas, but Salt Lake City is a good alternate too.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a good cheap price, and it's not that much further to drive. And on the topic of locations where you can stay, if you get in early enough, places like Coral Pink Sand Dunes is a beautiful dark location, close enough, and you can get a campsite there. Where if you just want to come there and car camp or bring a tent, it's very comfortable. It's cold at night in the desert, obviously, but not so freezing that you need something that expensive. You can even buy something at Walmart on your way there, and you'll be fine. So it's a fantastic opportunity for all sorts of ways to stay in Kanab. Any other comments about logistics from Chris or Gabe that anyone should consider coming to Nightscaper? I mean, what shouldn't hold them back from joining us for that week-long adventure of Milky Way and astrophotography?
There's absolutely nothing that should hold them back. But here's the thing: is again, understanding that there's going to be a lot that's going to be going on there, and there's going to be a lot that's going on before and after. So really consider that trip, because you can also go to we have a workshop page, a speaker workshop page there that will list, a lot of the speakers are hosting workshops either before Nightscaper, during Nightscaper, or after Nightscaper. So before you book anything, look on that. We've got those listed. There might be a couple more that might pop up as well, but look at something, because yes, while you're at Nightscaper, there's going to also be plenty of opportunities. I think a key thing to nail in is really all our sessions aren't starting. The classroom sessions aren't starting until 11 a.m.
Oh yes,
so
thank you.
We're
that might
playing
even be too early.
to Nightscapers here, right? So you can go out that night, and Aaron, like we bumped into you. You were leading a group last year. I think you've committed to leading some one night,
I am.
Explorations
and long drives to the north rim of the Grand Canyon. So we have an hour and 40 minutes to get to our location. So having the fact that we can come back at 5:30 in the morning and still sleep a little bit before our presentations is nice.
Yeah. So really, I think that's a good thing. People go out on their own. We're scheming on some other fun nighttime activities, but understanding, we've hit it a few times about community and coming together. And I think that's really, Matt and I went to Nightscapers as attendees in 2021, and we loved it. It was like to be honest, we've worked so many conferences on the other side of things, and this was one of the only ones we've ever gone to as attendees, and we loved it. And we were like just over the minds thrilled about just that energy you get off of the like-minded creativity, and it was just walking either in the classroom, being inspired, because even the most knowledgeable Nightscapers came away with some new inspirations, ideas, and thoughts. If it wasn't from the classroom, it was bouncing ideas around from other people, vendors in the hallway and stuff like that. So really amazing experience.
Yep.
Let me add a little bit to what
Please
he
do,
said.
Matt.
Sorry.
Go for it.
I'd say look at it as the backbone of a larger adventure, because we set it up to not occupy everybody's time, but their daytime, right? So you can build a larger adventure around the Nightscaper Conference by either bookending it with other adventures and leaving room to have ad hoc adventures with people that you meet while you're there, or you can book one or two workshops with some of the speakers while you're there, like one-nighters. Just think of it as the main course of a larger multi-course meal. And if you look at it that way, it's easy to build, something that's this bigger. Sorry, I mixed the metaphors there. It was a skeleton and a meal.
No
but,
rules
it's all
here,
about the
no
bottom.
worries.
Yeah. So.
And I want to mention that as someone was kind of rubbing their chin thinking, this price and this and the flight, and they're starting to feel like a little pang in their heart, I had to say, hey, the value is incredible. I mean, don't forget that all of this is coming with a crash course in night photography, that if you're just getting involved in it and just barely learning, and you're thinking, okay, how could I accelerate everything? Okay, I follow this guy. He's been doing it for 6 years. How do I get his skill set in 1 month? How do I get him and her skill set? How do I follow Mary Beth and learn how she does it? And you try to learn online, you watch YouTube, and you have questions all the time, and you're not quite understanding what they're saying, or you put it into practice, and you have some things that come up, and you're like, I need to put more into practice. I need to ask them questions. And you're thinking, how could I get there? How can I possibly bump my skill level up? Well, if you come to Nightscaper Conference, you will be sucking from a fire hose of information, and you have them in person to actually ask those questions, interject them as they're teaching it, as well as go out with them and see them do it, and finally understand exactly what Eric Benedetti is saying about how he does this method with his star tracker. And so it's such a worthwhile trip. Like I'm saying, it should be your yearly mecca as you come out here, become a master, and then help others master, and then just hang out with your other friends that are masters of Milky Way photography. It's the best. I can't wait to go every year to this, and I hope that you guys never stop doing this event. It's fantastic. So then I'm also getting questions or recommendations of flying into St. George and Salt Lake, and Royce Bear added, hey, there's fun things to do at the conference like the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. It's opened up on May 15th, and it never opens up before May 15th, and this conference is actually during that time where you can go to the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, and it's gorgeous, and you're looking directly southeast over the rim and looking at the Milky Way. So you get to have Grand Canyon plus Milky Way. How do you beat that? How do you beat it?
Bring a winter coat.
Yes, it's May, but it's not warm, especially there. Oh my gosh.
Matt and I were there at the North Rim last year. We did it. We were there the first day, and there was like, I think another 5 or 8 Nightscapers we saw out there, because it ended the first day it opened and on the last day of Nightscaper 2021. So it was,
it's a great plan. Yeah.
Last time I was out there, I made 3 German friends. They were all 7 feet taller than me, but they loved me, and we had a fun time out there. And the clouds ruined my shots, so that was no fun at all. But let's go into, speaking of images that maybe are working out. Chris shared with me an image that is his favorite of all time. I'm going to open it up over everyone's face right now. And Chris, take us through this image. I don't even know the location. You don't have to share it, but in general, is it in the United States? Is it in Europe? Where is this shot?
It's in North Cascades National Park in Washington State, which is really, it's funny that North Cascades is one of the least visited national parks in our country, and it's in the same state and just as far away from Seattle as Olympic and Mount Rainier, which are 2 of the most heavily visited national parks. And it's such an amazing place. Like Gabe and I led a workshop in North Cascades this past summer, and I remember walking around in daytime, thinking that I don't think that most American citizens know that a place that looks like this is in our country. Its nickname is the American Alps. And when you walk around, you know why. It's just so beautiful. It's like walking around the edge of heaven. It's really stunning. So I do need to say this is not my favorite photo of all time. Sorry.
Okay. I won't call it that.
I can't pick my favorite photo from North Cascades, let alone my favorite photo of all time.
Come on, man. It's only best to say we talk in hyperbole. That's the only way to speak on these.
Okay, so here's some hyperbole. I can't pick my favorite photo, but I can pick my favorite photo story from this year. And that's what this photo is. Okay. So I shot this year during the workshop. And there's a few things that go into it. Like one of them is perseverance, because we brought the group to this spot and it was cloudy. We wanted the Milky Way over the mountains, and it was clouds, and people are kind of like, oh, maybe we should go shoot something else. We're like, just be patient, right? Because there's some breaks in the clouds too. And when there's breaks in the clouds and the clouds are moving and you've got a good idea, just wait it out. Wait for those clouds to move, because at some point you're going to end up with a hole where you want it. So just wait. And so that's what this was. This was like the only 3 minutes of the night when the Milky Way was visible between the clouds. I love how the clouds kind of formed this V shape around the Milky Way. And then you got the lake coming up and this little outcrop of rock and all that. So there's a lot of good sort of educational stories that go into this. But my favorite story about this photo is from my daughter, and it's a post-processing story because I get this photo home, and it's a blend. So the foreground's a little bit dark and a little bit of detail. I didn't want to go crazy with detail in the foreground, but it's totally dark because we're looking down into a valley at night, right, under a new moon. There's no detail down there, so I did a long exposure for just a little bit of detail. I got to blend it in post after. And I made the mistake of doing the blend before I did any kind of color correction. So, and it ended up being kind of a...
Oh, your audio just recently got muted. Okay,
I
there
just,
you are.
like I'm talking with my hands and I accidentally tapped the space bar. All right, so I'm home and I'm doing the blend and I get too far into it and it ended up being kind of a complex blend. And then I realized, oh shoot, I never did a color correction and the color of the foreground was off. And I don't want to, I could go back and color correct the raw files and start over, but it was too much work. So I'm trying to do the color correction with masking. And here's the part where I got to tell everybody I'm red-green colorblind.
Oh,
so
man, and a photographer.
So I can color correct by the numbers, like Lightroom, tapping the W key and being able to sample a spot. It was a godsend for me when that came along. I can color correct by the numbers, the curves and all that, but I can't color correct by my eye. So when I'm in a situation where I have to ask for help. And the only person around was my daughter, who is 9.
Oh, so she's not a master photographer. Okay.
She's not a master photographer. She loves art. She loves painting. She's got a YouTube channel. But it's the only help I had around. And I was excited about the photo. So I was like, hey, Maggie, do me a favor. Just come in here and look at this. So I explained to her the problem. I say, look, the foreground, I know the color's not right, but I don't know how to fix it. And I kind of show her, I'm moving the tint slider back and forth. And I'm moving the temp slider back and forth and show her this is the effect, right? We can add red or yellow here. We can add green or blue here, right? And I say, so just tell me, I'm going to move the sliders and tell me which is right. And so I'm moving the temp slider. She's like, no, it's not that color. So then I'm moving the tint and I'm adding magenta. And she's like, yeah, keep going. And I get up to like 96 magenta. You turn on the magenta end, and she's like, yeah, that's good. And I'm like, well, 96, that's just way crazy, right? So we know when we're working in Lightroom, it's really rare to go extreme on a slider, and it's right. It always just looks, and I'm like, all right, well, sweetie, thanks anyway. Thank you. I appreciate your help, right? And I'm thinking, okay, tomorrow I'm asking my girlfriend, who is a photographer. So I have her come in to look at the photo. And I tell her, I was like, look at how far she pushed the magenta. And my girlfriend says, yeah, that's not right. Let's zero that out. And we start over. And my girlfriend says, yeah, a little more. Yeah, 96 was right. So my 9-year-old daughter nailed the edit for me. And that's my favorite photo story of the year.
Awesome. I love that. And I'm looking at this and trying to picture how magenta it might have looked, but it's just, and you're dealing with a chasm like this and everything is close in where the mountains, the hill that you're on, all of it cast extra shadow on top of being just nighttime. It's really hard to bring out the foreground and not make it look muddy, dirty, uninviting, but the reflection of light in the water fixes this. It is fantastic. This area is really cool. Is it a big hike to get there or is it just a drive right up?
No, it's easy. I'd say if there's one thing about North Cascades is there are not a lot of locations that are gimmies. It's a hiking park. But this is one spot where you can pull off the main road that drives through and get this and some other really nice views.
Fantastic. I'm going to take this image down and the color that I blocked Gabe's half of his face and move myself back out of his face before we have Matt that leaves here. Just want to tackle one last specific workshop question with you guys, or Nightscaper question. Drew was asking, how would I know if I've paid? I know I have paid, but I'm just not sure if I have it carried over from 2021 or 2022. How would everybody be certain that the 2023 Nightscaper, they have the reservation set? Anyone have an answer?
Just drop us an email.
Okay,
You know,
cool.
you can check your email for the receipt. Should just search Nightscaper in your email and receipt, and you should be able to find that. If you don't, drop us an email. You can find that contact information on our website in the footer, and that is nightscaper@nationalparksatnight.com.
All
So
right, cool.
just go down to the footer of the website, nightscaper.com, and click on that email and send us an email, and we'll confirm whether you're registered or not.
Okay, perfect.
There's one other thing we should mention too,
Hit
is
me.
for those people, we're definitely want people to show up in person, but we know that not everybody can, not everybody can travel. So we are recording all of the sessions. They're not being live streamed, but we will post them afterwards. And every attendee in person will have access to those for 1 year of replays. But for those people that can't make it, you can buy a replays only ticket. And then when you get posted, you'll have 365 days from the day we post it to watch every single session that happened.
Nice. Okay, sweet.
And
Awesome.
let me further that by saying, right, the replay tickets are also an early bird special. Their price will be going up at the end of the year. But we also have another ticket that if you buy the replays ticket and then you're like, oh, wait, I can come, you can upgrade it to the in-person and
Perfect.
replays ticket. So we try to be as flexible. You know, we understand that this is a ways out, not much, but it's still a ways out, and things happen and stuff. But either one way or another, we'll have, we have the tickets, we have the accessibility for you to enjoy the Nightscaper conference in a way that it works for you.
Right on. Okay, I'm going to ask this question to everybody here in the live stream and those of you in the chat, because I know there's several names in here who have actually been to Nightscaper. I want you to write your favorite elevator pitch for why the Nightscaper Conference has been a benefit to you. So, Kathy, I want to see what you have loved about the Nightscaper Conference. And I'm talking like 1 sentence, 2 sentences. You have an elevator pitch. Go. Matt, before you go, you got to take this on. You're a Milky Way photographer, astrophotographer. You just barely went out for the Geminid meteor shower. What is the reason that you love Nightscaper Conference?
Well, here's one of the things that really fascinated me about what Royce put together and what we're helping usher into the next phase is that there's a whole bunch of people from the sciences that join this and contribute to our deeper knowledge of why things work and how things work and possibly what they're for. And I think that only deepens your appreciation for a love of the night sky, whether you're attaching it to a landscape or not. Most of us do astro landscape work, but some of us do straight astro work. And knowing what's in the night sky and what we know about it, what's changing about that, can only help you look at it with a sense of wonder and applied knowledge when you're out there and shooting, and perhaps can help you lead to make different compositions because, right around now, Orion's in a great place to shoot, but if you didn't know about that and why Orion's special, it's something that's lost on you, but then you have a story to tell people when you're shooting too. So I would say bringing it back in there with, the astronomers and other people that work in deeper sciences that are also into astro and astro landscape photography was one of the things that I found really, really added another layer to a conference experience for me.
Awesome. That's Matt Hill, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt. We know that you have to go, but we have a few more minutes with Chris and Gabe, so feel free to hop off whenever you're ready, Matt. My experience with Matt has been him coming up after a conference presentation saying, dude, I love that. I love that. You did awesome. And my heart just melted, and I'm like, dude, this guy's awesome. He made me feel amazing. So I love Matt, and I love Gabe, and I know Chris and I work together and out of Chicago on the live presentations doing their online instruction. But I've never met Chris in person, and I'm stoked I get to meet him in person here this year, coming up in May. So like everyone is mentioning all that they love about the Nightscaper Conference, I am just going to kind of hover over this website so that you can go here and know that this is the button you're looking for, the register now. And so I'm going to go ahead and read some of these comments. The comments are, socializing, see you, Matt. Socializing with people who are fascinated with the same things that I am. Photography is for nerds who are artists. Nightscapes is just a step deeper into that. Drew Armstrong. Mary Beth says, Dark Skies, great company, Utah. 3 obvious reasons to go, and Royce Bear echoes that. He's like, love Mary Beth's pitch. Kathy says, meeting all the like-minded people. I've met most of the people here right now through this. And Rhonda's like, I got a new job. I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but I can't wait and I love to attend. So we all got to start hoping that Rhonda finds the right job that lets her come and join us. Royce Bear says, Mike Shaw is not only entertaining, but he's a great astroscientist. You're going to love him, and you're going to love his presentation. Laurencio Dinka says hi, but I know what he also says is I can't wait to go. Laurencio, are you going to make it? Are you going to be here? I want to meet you in person, man. I can't wait to meet you in person. And Kathy Hanahan, I don't think I can actually register for almost a month. Oh, no, Kathy, the price right now is the best price. You got to make sure you get it ASAP. Who else is on here who has given us a quick little message? Andrea Boyle, I hope you make it. She was asking about driving to Coral Pink Sand Dunes and whether you need a 4x4. You will not, but there are many locations in the area that you'll be glad that you have it. So join us in Kanab, 18th through 21st. Hey, Chris and Gabe, anything else that I can mention or that you would like to mention before we call it good for this episode?
I think something important that a few people just touched on there that we haven't really talked about is this conference is a great conference, and I think we've all been to conferences that are great conferences, and you learn a lot and it's fun and you get to meet sponsors and all that. But what sets this conference apart is that it's a community, right? It's not just a conference. It's not just a trade show. It's not just the education. In fact, I'd say probably the most important part of it is the relationships. You're hearing people saying, I can't wait to see you, and all, and you hear that. I mean, people are going out shooting together, they're sharing experiences, right, and keeping in touch throughout the year, and that's what really makes this a special event.
Absolutely agree. With the people that I have met out here, it's become fast friends, and it's hard to not look forward to seeing them again. And, it's really impossible to see them anywhere else and to get out for a situation where we're all hanging out together. And so this is the easiest, best way for all of us to come together to one spot and have a reunion, if nothing else. And I can't wait to do it. Gabe, how'd that shot turn out for you and Matt that you guys crawled up from behind on us in the Toadstool Hoodoo area?
It turned out really well. Again, we it's funny. We had got there maybe probably an hour or two before you did. And I think we had set up like a North Star shot too, right? So I think we had to go around and get our cameras from the North Star and then joined you on the South because that was ready. Because then we went deep. We're like, oh, we know this is going to be good at this time. We'll come back to this. And then we just went exploring for all these other little hoodoos that you do so well. And that was such a special night. And it was really, really such a special night to let's be honest, strange things happen at night, and
yeah.
And some of them are comforting and some of them are not comforting, right? And that was just and sometimes people are like, oh, I have this place all to myself. But I love, again, getting back to that community and the sharing, and we bumped into you and we're like, okay, what are you doing? Do you need some help? Or what, it's like, what do you see? What can we help with the light, any light painting or anything like that, and then to see people just get it. And to have those aha moments is just it was just so special. So we only knew you from your presentation for really that online and your classroom. So it was great to see you in action as well. So that's like hitting on what Chris says, the community plus the sharing. That is just there's nothing is off limits, and it's just everyone shares. They'll talk about their trips, their travels, their travails, so, and their struggles because it's just a wonderful family, reunion, so to speak. So.
Yep, absolutely. It's funny when you're out there alone and then someone shows up, your first thought is, man, someone else is coming and is going to screw up my night. But then it turns out to be someone like another Nightscaper attendee or someone else that you've seen, and it's like, wow, awesome. you're fantastic, and we're actually working together now to make it even nicer. And it's great. The community, everyone I've met in person have been terrific. There's only been a few people who have been curmudgeons about certain sky color situations, and I don't even have to think about them. They're fantastic people, and they're brilliant. Jay Jeffries, real quick, an advice he gives us for Coral Pink Sand Dunes is that the platform there, the observation platform where it's flat, it's really great for an 11 p.m. to sunrise time lapse of the Milky Way, because you can put your tripod down. It's not in the sand dunes. It's a nice level, and you can run that time lapse all through the night, but it is definitely cold. Laurencio says, man, I wish I could join you, but I'm in Romania. I don't understand the difference there. Romania has a flight to Las Vegas. Laurencio, you got to come. All right, man. So you guys, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Gabe, for hanging out with me today. National Parks at Night is such a cool team of like-minded Milky Way Astro, Aurora, landscape photographers that just, I have only begun to get to know you guys. I'm excited to get to know you more. When people want to try and follow you and learn more about National Parks at Night, where should they go, Chris? What's their best links that they should hit up?
You can find everything right through the website. So nationalparksatnight.com. And from there, you can, it's easy to find the links to our Facebook page and Instagram. What I would recommend is go to the blog and sign up, because we have a weekly blog post. It's free
Awesome.
information on night photography, and we talk about the parks and dark skies, all the stuff that everybody here cares about. And you can get it right in your inbox. And we promise we don't abuse that privilege. That's all we use the information for. You can check what you're interested in, and that's all we'll email you about.
Yeah, all right, you got it. So everyone go in there, say thanks to Gabe and Chris and Matt for being here with us today, and sign up for that blog post and get that in your inbox and get some inspiration throughout the weeks and months. Andy Washington says, thanks all, I am so tempted. Dave says, thanks Aaron, Chris, Gabe and Matt for putting this on. And Mary Beth says, thanks to everyone, always looking forward to this conference. And Kathy says, thanks NPAT team. Thank you everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back again. We'll have some Nightscaper pre-events with other speakers from the conference, all getting us excited leading up to the conference in May. So stay tuned. Keep following their channel and my channel, and you'll be able to get information about what's coming up. So hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your holidays and your New Year's, and heck, get out there. Right now is the best time. What day is it? The 19th? Now the moon's getting out of the way of that perfect arch of the Milky Way, winter Milky Way pano. So if you want to get out for photography, now is the time to go. The next few nights are fantastic. So get your camera, get an adventure going, and pump up those tires and bring a spare with you and get out to the desert somewhere if you can. So thanks all. Have a great one, and we will see you in the next Nightscaper pre-event. Later.